What's up everyone, MK Tom Brady here. So in this video, I wanted to review and react and give my take to a video by one True Underdog titled Mortal Kombat 1, The Game Is Actually Dying. I know he made a few more recent videos, but I wanted to react to this one especially because I feel like there were several absolutely brutally disingenuous takes in here. And the conclusion that he basically deduces near the end of the video here as to why a lot of this is happening is just, it's mind-blowing to me that somebody could come to this conclusion, naming almost anything out there except for the most obvious conclusion of all, and it also happens to be the one that everybody is saying is their reason for leaving the game. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a listen.
How did this happen? Why is Mortal Kombat 1 in such a bad spot? Let's go ahead and work backwards. I think a big mistake made recently was to delay the Season 4 of Invasions. I know nobody loves Invasions, but believe it or not, plenty of people are still playing it all the time because they do actually want the free skins, and also the combat coins to spend at the shrine. They also love leveling up their characters and unlocking stuff that way too. Even though I don't know anybody who loves Invasions, I do know plenty of people who still play it all the time, regardless of how they feel about it, because they do want those unlocks. And
so first he says one of the reasons he deduces could be because they delayed Season 4 Invasions. I find this very hard to believe because not only has Invasions been described by pretty much everybody as a quote-unquote brutally agonizing and unfun experience, he then goes on to say that he doesn't even know anybody that likes doing this or loves doing it. But in the same breath says, and there are plenty of people who play it who love getting those unlocks and leveling up their character, but I don't know anybody who actually does love that. But there are plenty of people, I just don't know anyone. The reason why you don't know anyone is because there is no one. Invasions is one of the worst ideas possible in the game. And it is unfun, brutally agonizing, and one of the just worst pieces of garbage ever put in any game ever.
like mentioned earlier, the online was also not in a good spot until recently. There were desyncs everywhere, and as a result, most people could not play online like they wanted to, and instead did have to switch to single-player modes like Invasion. But now they're done, and they've grinded for everything, so there's no reason to hop onto the game anymore at this point until Season 4 gets here, which is why I really do wish that NetherRealm would just drop Season 4 right now. But
okay, so again, this is very, very strange because first he says, maybe another reason could be there are players who they were playing online, but we had that desync issue. So, okay, it took NetherRealm quite a while to fix that. And in the meantime, while they were waiting for that to get fixed, they spend their days grinding Invasions, a mode he says nobody loves. In fact, he doesn't even know anyone who does this who likes doing this because no one likes doing it. But let's just humor him here and say that they want to be playing the online version, but the desync issue is just driving them crazy. So while they're waiting for NRS to address the problem, they're still enjoying their MK1 and grinding Invasions. But now they've unlocked all the skins, done all this stuff. So now they're just waiting for the Season 4 of Invasions so they can come back and do an activity that nobody likes doing all over again. The problem with this is if they actually left the game online to play Invasions while they were waiting for this fix, well, once the fix happened, why would they then leave the game only to come back for the next season of Invasions, which they didn't want to do anyway? They were only doing it while waiting the online to be fixed. They would go back to playing online and enjoying their game instead of leaving the game outright, only coming back, in your opinion, to play the next season of something that nobody likes to do, Invasion. So again, this makes absolutely no sense to me.
But instead, it seems like they want everything to come out at once, so that includes Peacemaker and Season 4 of Invasions and also the crossplay. They want all of this stuff to release at the same time, which I personally think is a very dumb decision.
So he thinks this is the dumb decision, but the fact of the matter is this is always how they've done things, always. They will generally release new content at the end of the Combat League season. Something happens that causes the content to be delayed. They don't start trickling in content little by little. They wait till the end and then release the content that way. They've always done this. So this is not the reason why people would be leaving the game either. It's just something that was delayed because Combat League season was delayed because they apparently, rumor is, too much manpower fixing the DC issue. But this is something they've always done since time immemorial. So this is not something new here, like, wow, they've changed the way they do things by releasing everything at once. They always do this, and if the end of the season has to be delayed, then they still wait until release everything at once. It's always been that way.
And I have no problem saying that because contrary to popular belief, I do not work for NetherRealm, and I never have worked for NetherRealm. Yes, they do sometimes invite me to special events, but so does every other fighting game developer. They reach out to me, and if I have the free time, I accept the offer. I still do work a day job, keep in mind, so I'm not always free. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because there are some people in the comment section who genuinely believe that I work for NetherRealm, which is not true and has never been true. I have no idea where they got that information or if they're simply lying for the fun of it, but now everyone watching, you know that I've never worked for any of these developers ever. Alright, so says he has no idea where anyone got that idea from, while just making an argument or giving an opinion that says, hey, I think that the invasions, which I know nobody loves, I don't know anyone that loves them, being delayed could be a reason. And more so, the next 2 points he's going to try to make here. Because hearing these next 2 points and his conclusion just has me scratching my head and saying, after saying this, how do you still have no clue why people would ever think you work for NetherRealm? Back on track, why I think that Mortal Kombat 1 is seeing a decline in players. I think the Combat Pack is a big villain in this story, honestly, because NetherRealm should have given us a full character every month and also a cameo character every now and then, but instead they spaced it apart even further, where 1 month you get a full character, then the next month you get a cameo. And I think cameos are cool, but the reality is I don't think most players get that hype over a cameo DLC, right? How many players do you think hop onto the game because a new cameo character is out? Oh my god, I gotta switch back to Mortal Kombat 1. Forget Tekken 8, a cameo character came out. I gotta hop on Mortal Kombat 1, let's go!
The reason why, and this is funny because the answer here literally answers his next point. The reason why people don't get excited for a cameo, or really even a character, because if you look at Peacemaker, there really isn't much hype around Peacemaker at all. In fact, the hype is around, please let them be doing a massive overhaul update with Peacemaker. That's really more so what everyone's looking for, not Peacemaker himself. So the real issue here is the cameo, first of all, it ended up being, the cameo system as of right now is more of a gimmick. It's not something that really adds a ton of depth to the game. You see the same 3 or 4 cameos used constantly, and no new cameo, unless they do something drastic, is going to be able to do anything better than those. And the only thing, though, that cameo can do is something similar or do what they do better, and you'll still see the same characters playing the same way, only with a different cameo. Cameos just don't, unfortunately, add enough diversity to the game because the game is in a very shallow and watered-down spot. The cameos probably all need a major steroid buff, but as of right now, the cameo system it's more of a gimmick than anything at all. And for a new character even, these characters, this game is very shallow. It's lacking depth. It's lacking substance. So when a new character gets added to the game, if the character is really good, they're still very, very simple and will get figured out in a week. So people will play them for a short period of time and then leave. And if the character is watered down, they'll come on and say, this is even more boring than we thought, and they'll leave sooner than a week. But that is why people are not excited, not because they should be releasing more DLC in a faster schedule or more characters and less cameos, spread the cameos out more, pump the characters out now. That's really not any of the reason at all.
Yeah, I just don't think most people feel that way. Sure, some diehard veteran players might get that excited, but most players aren't going to get that excited over a cameo DLC. But that being said, I also do think that the NetherRealm community, the NetherRealm players if you will, are a really tough bunch to keep around. If you don't give Mortal Kombat players something new all the time, a reason to stick around, then they're just going to switch to a different game, which is actually less common with other fighting game communities. Look at Street Fighter 6, it takes them a long time to pull out a new DLC character. There has not been new content in Street Fighter 6 for a long time. But guess what? People keep on playing anyway. Their community remains strong and still has consistent players every single day. And that's not unique to Street Fighter. I would argue that Tekken has an even more loyal fan base, and some games haven't gotten content for years, and people are still playing them, like thousands every day. Which means, for whatever reason, NetherRealm players are just the exception. For whatever reason, we don't stick around unless we have content all the time to keep us interested. And if I'm being honest, I'm not completely sure why that is. Maybe because Mortal Kombat 1 is so mainstream, and therefore most of the players are mainstream, and perhaps mainstream gamers are more likely to get bored and just leave. But I digress.
So he has no idea why people think he works for NetherRealm. And you're really going to see this in the next segment here. But he puts all the blame on the NRS community as if there's just something wrong with NRS players. He paints a picture that NRS players are just never happy unless give me new content. He paints that picture of a very entitled community who is just not loyal, like Tekken and Street Fighter players, right? That these Street Fighter 6 players and these Tekken 8 players stick around even though they don't get content as frequently as NRS players. And NRS players, unless they're getting new content constantly, they are just not loyal people, or maybe they're just too mainstream of a crowd, which means they're used to constant, they're really used to just nonstop content, so they get bored really quickly and then they move on. For one, this point is completely shot down because a vast majority of the MK1 crowd moved on to Tekken 8, and they have no problem staying loyal to Tekken 8. They don't need new content every week or, an update on content every week or every month. At the end of the day, they have no problem staying loyal to Tekken, and the Capcom players have no problem staying loyal to Street Fighter. And this is because the answer is obvious, and yet he deduces every explanation except for the only one that can be. Perhaps games like Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 have significantly more substance, more to the game, which keeps players around playing it even through dry spells of no content. In fact, it doesn't feel like as much of a dry spell as an NRS game because those games have significantly more substance. They have more freedom of expression, more ways to play the game, more styles to play the game, just more of everything. There's just more. Those are completed games with a lot of substance. So you can add content to a game that has a lot of substance. What you cannot do is get substance by adding a content package like a character or a cameo. That is not enough substance for the game, because what happens is, again, like I said in the last segment, character comes in the game. He's, if he's powerful, he's still very easy and simple because the game and the system is very easy and simple. He's figured out in a week, or he comes out and he's watered down and people get bored of him sooner than a week. Either way, the problem is not that NRS players are this weird group of people who just need content every time. Problem is NRS has gone the route of no real substance, but we will substitute quality for quantity, and we'll give you a new character here. And of course, people come back for a week and leave, and people say, why did they leave? What happened? Why are other players of other games so loyal? And it has not yet dawned on him that those games have substance and depth and freedom to play the game and express yourself. And not everything's the same. Not everything looks the same. Not everything's watered down. Not everything's simple. And the point just passes right over his head.
Digress. The main point I'm trying to make here is I do believe that NetherRealm did a lot of stuff to sabotage their own game, unintentionally, along with Warner Brothers games. However, at the same time, I have to admit that the NetherRealm players are extremely flaky. The Mortal Kombat players do not stick around for very long, but at the same...
Okay, so, again, wondering why people think he works for NRS. he went on a soliloquy on how NRS players are this way and that way. They're not loyal like this group of players and that group of players. And they're just really, really flaky and they don't stick around. Just really painting NetherRealm players in this terrible light that they're just not loyal people. They need this constantly. And then says, yeah, NetherRealm, they sabotage themselves unintentionally though, and Warner Brothers has it. So a very quick, NetherRealm, Warner Brothers real quick. Let's get right back on blaming the players. And for him to say NetherRealm unintentionally did anything, NetherRealm intentionally has gone with a formula that doesn't work. Now, they have gotten away with things for a long time, but now that the competition has really stepped it up, they are no longer getting away with what they have gotten away with for years. So, constantly rebuilding a game from the ground up, scrapping every good idea and hoping you come up with a better one, has finally caught up to them. That is 100% their intentional fault. That has nothing to do with Warner Brothers and nothing to do with oops, they accidentally didn't realize that they couldn't finish a game on time by scrapping everything and constantly building it up and having to reinvent the wheel every time. And again, goes back to, NRS players, they're a little flaky. I have no idea why these other, communities stay with their game. Again, not even realizing that a lot of the NRS community has gone to the Tekken community and they have no problem being loyal to that game. So clearly it isn't that they're just a weird, kind of quirky, picky bunch that just needs to content every time, because that only seems to apply when they're on Mortal Kombat and not another game like Tekken 8.
Same time, NetherRealm should be aware of that. They should know their audience by now, right? It's been 10 straight years of making games. And ironically enough, I think that's why the living...
And he makes the point of NRS should know their audience by now. And this is an even bigger point. He's clueless to realize they don't. They do not have a pulse on the community. There's no possible way they could have a pulse on the current community right now and be thinking like, what could be happening? I mean, he said, well, they should know the way their community is. Yes, their community wants you to stop scrapping things and rebuilding it from scratch. They want you to build a game with substance and diversity and multiple ways to play the game and a lot of depth to it. Not these simplistic games with gimmicky concepts. You would think they know that. But the point is, they have completely lost sight of their community. They've lost touch with their community. They have no idea what people want anymore.
Towers were such a good idea. Keep in mind, I never liked the Living Towers. I thought it was super repetitive and not interesting at all. But at the same time, it gave players a reason to constantly come back to the game, because anytime there was a holiday, Living Tower. Anytime there was a Mortal Kombat anniversary of some kind, here's a Living Tower event. All of which kept players coming back to Mortal Kombat 11 because they wanted to do the tower. The towers were fun and goofy for most people. I personally hate anything that takes away from the core fighting game itself. So I hate all the stuff flying around on screen. I hate the floor traps. I don't like any of those random things that I can't control. But I think I'm in the minority there, and most people did love these silly Living Tower events, and also it made for great content, right? It was still a great YouTube video. Even if I did not like those crazy Living Tower events, it was good for YouTube. So I guess what I'm saying...
So one of his solutions is they should bring back the Living Towers. That's what kept people coming back to the game. Again, clueless to little gimmicky things do not keep people and retain them on the game. They will come back. If they want those skins, they'll get those skins and go back to leaving again and not come back to play the actual game. He doesn't seem to understand this. And again, he just doesn't understand that what you want to do is give a game substance and depth, not a living tower. He seems to be missing this point of, and he's talking so, people in MK11 and they would come back. In this fantasy world where MK11 is seen in this glowing light, like MK11 was this great game at towers, you could come back for it, all this content, nobody looks at MK11 like that. They look at MK11 like a steaming pile of crap, worst fighting game ever made in history, and then NRS says, we'll do you better, we'll make an even worse game in MK1. So no one looked at MK11 and had anything of these positive feelings. I got it, the Living Towers, you want to get some cool skins. But these are not things that retain people. They might do what MK has always done. obtain for a very small period of time, but is unable to retain. I've always said that MK, for many, many years, were the best at obtaining. I guess that's Tekken 8 now, but they have always been the worst in the world at retaining, whereas their competitors have no problem, and now they're in real trouble because their competitors are obtaining and retaining more than they can and will.
Thing is, NetherRealm needs to bring that stuff back. They have to find a way to give us special events like that all the time, anything to keep players coming back to the game on a weekly basis, or at least a monthly basis, because as mentioned earlier, the cameo characters aren't going to bring people back. You need either a full character or at least a fun event of some kind to keep players interested, right? As you all know, I love making these videos interactive, so let me know in the comments.
And again, he says they need to give people a reason to come back every week or every month. No, what they need to do is give people a reason to stay on the game and play it and grind it and get better. The game is 5 months old. 5 months old. A 5-month-old fighting game right now, and they're at the point where they need to give people a reason to come back once a week or once a month. You really think that bringing somebody back once a week or once a month when the game is only 5 months old really shows the game is in a good state? Even if they did that, that's still no better. At this point, I don't think anything can really save the game. And I really don't think there's any hope left for this game. I think it's over. I think it's done.
Comments down below what you would do to save Mortal Kombat 1 at this point. Just imagine that NetherRealm gave you a big pile of money and said, save this game. What are you gonna do to make it happen? I'm curious. I want to hear your ideas on how to save this game, because I've already told you most of mine. And like I keep saying in every video, I truly do read each and every comment. So grab that keyboard and make your voices heard.
There is no possible way he could read each and every comment and hear what people are saying. Because if he did, he would read that people are saying, how can he be this naive and clueless to what's happening here? All his suggestions have nothing to do with the real problem. The actual gameplay, how shallow it is, how terrible the netcode is, like how incomplete the game is. Not his solutions are add little gimmicky events to bring people back here and there. Like, none of these things are issues. None of these things are solutions. Really, the only thing, NRS would have to do too much. They would have to literally fix everything wrong with the game just to make it a complete product. And that's even before you actually touch the characters and the cameos. Then they would need to omega steroid buff the characters, but in a way that has a lot of depth, diversity, and freedom of playing the game. And it needs to be over the top like other fighting games are right now. There's no possible way that happens. And in fact, if Peacemaker does not do something drastic, that is the end of this game, and this game is done for good. And that's really where this game is right now. And, that's kind of my take on this. As always, I want your opinions. Am I being too harsh here, or am I being fair? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more content.